You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May, putting you in the driver's seat to control your finances. Let's start the Practical Wealth talk about alternatives to Wall Street.
I'm excited today that I have a special guest with us, Damion Lupo. And he's the host of Transformation Nation and the author of Black Belt Wealth, which is his brand. And it's really exciting. So I'm going to read you actually a little bit of his bio so you know who you're talking to. So as we go through this, you need to get somewhere. If you're on those treadmill, bookmark it, and when you get back home, you get your notepad out, some notes. He's going to drop some serious knowledge on you guys today. And but Damion's the best-selling author in personal finance and money thinking. He's the host of Transformation Nation. Now, get this: he owns 30 companies. And so this is super cool. He's the founder of his own martial art. Okay, Aikido, right? And so he rejects and regrets and speaks to it as ultimate life failure. He has a unique approach in living a fulfilled life by breaking the rules, making more mistakes faster, than the competition. See, most people, my dad used to always tell me, you learn by screwing up. And so that's because you just make new mistakes, right? And so, which is his key to success. He plays by a different set of rules. Get this now, he bought his first rental house with a Visa card and then snowballed that into 150 rental houses in 7 states in less than 5 years. In 2008, he lost the entire $20 million, but recreated his wealth and reinvented his life over four transformational years. So today he leads 3 global companies with one unified mission to free people from money bondage. So I want to welcome to our show, the Practical Wealth Show, Mr. Damion Lupo. Say hi to the family out there, Damion.
Hey, Curtis. Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going good. So we're excited to have you. So where do I start? So let's go. See, let's start from going from the bottom to the top, back to the bottom, and then back to the top again. Tell us that didn't sound like a fun ride, but you talk about what that was like and the lessons learned from that people can glean from your pain, I hate to say.
Well, Curtis, it's funny because you can really look at any up or down as exciting or terrifying. When you're falling straight down, that's terrifying unless you're skydiving, and then you're really excited about falling straight down. So, I mean, it really depends on the perspective, and this is where the idea of self-responsibility and owning your life and not being a victim is so important. Back in 2008, when I had built up this real estate empire, starting with my Visa card, buying my first house, and then I lost $20 million. I had a huge problem. And the problem was that my net worth and self-worth were so entangled that they were one and the same. And that was me skydiving without a parachute and really not wanting to. And that was a terrifying, almost life-ending experience because I was completely focused on the money and I wasn't really focused on what really matters. And that's the work that we're doing. It's the mission. It's having values that guide us. None of that stuff was a part of my life. And that's a huge problem for, I think, a lot of people. It was certainly a problem for me for the first 10 years.
Absolutely. And so now you've separated your net worth and your self-worth are 2 different things. Explain that.
Yeah, the net worth to me is really kind of worthless. Mm-hmm. I mean, net worth is great for your banker if you're trying to get a loan, mm-hmm. but beyond that, it really just serves the ego. And it's really not the most important thing. When the mission I have to free 1 million people from financial bondage, the way to get to that place is not a pile of cash. It's not cash flow. It's simply confidence. It's this confidence muscle. You don't get confidence by reading a book. You get confidence mm-hmm. by doing the work. Mm-hmm. It's like going to the gym. And so the focus now is really on finding ways to develop that muscle for other people and develop that muscle more and more for me. So I don't really care about the net worth when somebody is projecting their big balance sheet to me. I go, that's interesting, but I'm not really that impressed. And I'm not impressed with mine either because it doesn't make us free. It just makes us probably more anxious.
And that's pretty cool. So I like your idea of what is in your mind, what is wealth and differentiating wealth from a big bank paycheck or bank account. Tell me your feelings about that.
Well, I think wealth is the ability to choose freely, and it's taking the limitations that are really more self-imposed than anything. It's taking the fears. It's both the fear of failure and it's the fear of missing out away, so that we're not driving our life based on ego. Wealth for much of the population is about the next shiny object, the next shiny house, the big house, the next wife. Like, it's all this stuff. And it's the thinking that once I have enough resources, cash, I can get those things. And the question is, what emotion are you actually trying to satisfy with those things? I mean, I used to be that guy. Like, I had to get the Ferrari. Well, what I wanted was significance and I wanted speed. And what I realized was that there was this shiny four-wheeled set of handcuffs that locked me down. So I didn't really get that. I thought the external thing was going to satisfy an internal need. And once I understood the internal need to connect with people and to do work that matters and have that type of life, all of a sudden that external stuff really started to shift in importance and really went away in large part.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I like the idea of creating freeing 1 million people from financial bondage.
That's it.
I like that. So you got to have a goal that's bigger than you and bigger than money that pulls you towards it.
That's it. And it's got to be in a bumper sticker. And the reason that's so important is because when we think about this, and it took me a long time to get something that was that crisp and clean, we just wander around and there's no real defining rule set, or we don't know where the end zone is. I mean, we're trying to, we're trying our life, but we're all over the place like a drunk squirrel. And like, let's go find the nut. Let's focus on the nut. Let's go capture the nut. And very clean.
I'm sorry. That was funny. I'm very silly. All right. So, and so drunk squirrel. And that, it's like, if you don't have because you can't, it's funny. I was at a real estate workshop and this guy asked him, well, what are you trying to do? I just want to, flip some houses so I can make some money. So you could do what? So I can do more transactions so I can make more money. And it didn't really have it was just transactional based, but they didn't have a goal of financial freedom. They were just, working, but with no clear vision in sight. And I find that a lot with people who are just working. They get caught up in the work, but they don't, to me, you want to be, I tell clients, you want to be financially independent, even if you're in business, from the business, so you can have a life. The business is just a vehicle, but you want to, cash flow is the name of the game. Would you agree with that?
I would say that the work can become your life if there's a mission involved. It can become so important to you that you're not trying to run away from it, that you're falling into it and you can't wait to wake up in the morning to be a part of it. So unfortunately, when we think about our jobs or our businesses, most people wouldn't do them for free. And that's one of the distinctions where I know I have basically no competition in my space, because if you gave me $100 million right now, I'd wake up and do the exact same thing I'm doing. It wouldn't make any difference. That's the shift into you knowing that you're on the right path, because you take money out of the equation and nothing changes. You're just you're fired up and you're doing that thing. So the question really is, would you do your thing for free? Does it matter that much? And if you're flipping houses to be able to do more houses, or you're making money just to have more things or more money, like, when is it enough? When is it? Why are you really doing that? I think you're probably just serving your ego.
Right. If somebody dropped $1 billion on me, I would still do what I'm doing because I love it, and I feel I'm blessed because I feel my vocation is my invocation, or vice versa. And I do that, and I'd be a high school basketball coach somewhere. So doing shooting clinics and basketball clinics. So that's what I would do if I didn't need to do anything. I would still probably do those two things: teach financial literacy classes and coach basketball. So, and that's cool. And people got to find something like that for you, so that what you're doing is not work. So you're really creating value in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, guys. Curtis, to you too, my friend. Work is not a 4-letter word. Like, it's there is something powerful about work being something that you fall in love with. And so I think sometimes we buy into this idea that we're trying to get away from it. Like, so it's play, so that we get up and we get to do this play. hey, you know what? I like struggling through things when I'm learning and I'm growing. And that's one of the problems with the quote unquote work that we despise. We're not growing. We're sitting there going through motions thinking this is a waste of my life.
Right, exactly. And so now the government and the financial institutions created this word that you hate. Let's talk about that for a second, retirement. And what is it, by the way, in your opinion, and where did it come from? Why do you hate retirement?
Retirement's a death sentence, man. I mean, when you look at the numbers, you and I are both numbers guys. We love the numbers. Numbers don't lie. The average U.S. male dies 3 years after retiring. So it is a death sentence. It is a crazy idea. The idea of retirement really is fairly new, and it was part of this industrial age where we say, okay, you know what, the equipment is worn out, so we're going to retire. We're going to put it in the trash. Or the animal that we use for our farm is too old to function, so we're going to take them out and shoot them. So we basically have this mindset that we're going to retire people and be done with their useful impact. Well, that is crazy. And the universe says, if you're done contributing, you're done consuming, we're going to take you out of the equation because you're taking up space and resources. It's why the guys die. There's no stimulation and there's no contribution. So I don't like the idea of waiting until you hit 60 or 70 to have that moment in time where you're actually going to experience something. I think that is a completely psychotic idea. I think people that are waiting to do that are giving up on their life. I think it's a sad state of affairs. And unfortunately, we're told, just put in that time, put in those years. And then this is where the millennials kind of have something right, I think, where they're starting to focus more on experiences and less on the big house and the shiny cars.
Exactly. I mean, you want to, I tell people, look, you want to live the best life you can today because tomorrow's not promised. Now you need to prepare for tomorrow, but don't put your life on deferment. You know what I mean? And because retirement is an agricultural term, right? That means to put out of use. And so who wants to be put out of use? I was talking to a pastor and I said, look, where in the Bible did you see Moses retired? That's a totally new concept. And the numbers don't work, just from let's go back to math, that it's really hard in this environment to put away enough money. I would say impossible really to, for the average person, for, upper middle income person, to put away enough money to live for 30, 35 years without working.
It's not going to happen. Let's just be honest. It is not going to happen. You are not going to save your way into wealth. If that's your strategy, you're dead. You're never going to actually be able to do this thing that you think you're going to do called retirement and live. You need a new strategy. You need new thinking. You need to retool your brain.
Yes. And that's it. So now, you're in the, one of the things that you say, and I say this a lot, is that I tell clients, you are your best financial advisor because 2 + 2 is 4. And it is not good stewardship to think that somebody 1,000 miles away from you will care more about your money than you will. Right. And so speak to that for a second. And then I want to talk about, because I know and so he was gracious enough to send me a few books. I got them the other day, so I haven't had a chance to crack them yet, but I'm looking at them but looking at the QRP, the Qualified Retirement Plan, which I want to talk about. So I will talk about the books a little bit later, but I'm looking at them now, thinking of the titles. But talk about, people take control of their life and money. Is that kind of what your one of your messages is?
It's a huge part of the messaging. I mean, the truth is, you are never going to be free and you're never going to be wealthy if you don't take control of your stuff. If you just hand over your money, I mean, there were people that had $100 million plus net worths and piles of cash that handed their money over to Bernie Madoff, and look how that turned out. And in large part, if we're doing that, and I don't care whether you've got a financial advisor that's consistently giving you money, giving you returns that are 10, 12, 14%. I don't care if you've got insurance. I don't care what the product is. The problem is you're never going to save your way to wealth by abdicating responsibility. You've got to be engaged. So it doesn't mean you can't do some of these strategies, but if that is your strategy and you're not active, you're screwed. So I think that's the big point of all these things, that there's good pieces to a lot of these strategies. There's a good piece to mutual funds. There's a good piece to insurance and retirement, real estate, like all these different things. But the point is, the best investment you're going to make is going to be in you. The second best one is going to be finding ways to not pay half of your money away to taxes. I mean, those are the two things. Those are the hammers.
Yeah, you get most people give most of your money away, right? And so one of the things that we teach is that there is more opportunity in minimizing the losses in your life than there is try to pick winning investments. So let's stop, focus on efficiency first. Stop, taxes. How you pay your mortgage. Sometimes how you fund your retirement plans, how you pay for education, how you buy big ticket items. There's more money lost in how people do that then they'll ever, try to make up. Let me see if I can get Dave Ramsey always talk about these magical 12% mutual funds that I'm still looking for, right? And you've got to get control and you got to think about that. So I really because that's the only way you're going to get to that message of building wealth is people have got to learn to take control of their life and you work for money, why not figure out how money works?
That's a good question, and maybe start asking yourself whether you should be working for money. I mean, we all know how to work for money, but the question is, should we be working for money? Should we be working for something else? I mean, Robert Kiyosaki says, and this is the first thing in Rich Dad Poor Dad, the first message: the rich don't work for money. So why are you? Why are you working for money? I mean, that's the dumbest thing that we've ever spent our time engaging with is working for money. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, big picture, as human beings.
Yeah, I mean, and I ask people that. So, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? I go, yeah. I say, what's the first chapter? I said, rich people don't work for money. And then they'll say, well, yeah, money works for them. I said, that is not really what that means. That means they work to turn earned income into passive and portfolio. It's the type of money that comes in to buy. They work to buy assets, and see, so that like a lot of people will come out of that. The book is like, well, they don't know. All right, what should I do now? But it's really on what he calls being. You got to be. It's like be, do, have. And most people just tell me what to do so I can have this, but you've got to think differently to have what these, you got rich people think and regular people think 180 degrees differently. I think our message is to success leaves clues, and you got to study success.
You do have to study success, and you got to study the right versions of success. There's you can. I mean, there are a lot of people that I study that I don't fundamentally that I don't agree with, and you and I have our differences of opinions about certain things in the financial world, and I love Grant Cardone, and I think that the idea of focusing on the hustle and just drilling into more transactions is a crazy person's routine. But there's we have to ask better questions. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. Just asking better questions. I really believe that the answers are inside you if somebody will help you with the questions. And it's not that you need to be told what to do. It's you need to be asked what matters to you. It'll come out of you. So
Yes.
if we can focus on that, and usually, I mean, that we need help with that. We're not that good. I mean, we just aren't. We have it inside us, but we're not that good. And if I asked you right now, what do you know? You're going to look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what do you mean? What do I know? If I start asking you better questions, we're going to be able to tap into all this wisdom from your experiences in your life. So it's fundamentally about the questions that we ask, and really the control piece has everything to do with responsibility. Are you a victim or are you responsible? Or do you justify and blame or do you own it? I mean, these are like basic foundational things that we can ask a question around and then shift our being. I'm a self-responsible person. Well, that shifts what you're even going to focus on investment-wise or business-wise or work-wise when you're self-responsible. You're never going to hand your money over to an advisor and say, I hope it works out. That's never going to be part of your plan.
Right. Right. Exactly. And, what do you want your life to look like? Because even if you determine, well, I want to cash flow. Well, just by saying, okay, look, I want my assets to generate X amount of dollars, that shifts what you look at and your philosophy of what you consider as a good place to, or a good asset classes or things to do with your money once you're clear on what you want to do, what you want your life to look like. Because there's no product. It's always a strategy. There's no product that could win for you, but the industry wants to sell products, but it's the strategy. And then products are just tools of implementation. But, you kind of have to, if you're working with somebody, I always tell people, look, it's your money. It ain't Curtis's money, right? So it can't be more important to me than it is to you. So, if you ask me a question, I'm coming back with 3 more questions so that we can think through, all right, where are you? What's the real issue there? And I'm going to kind of help you come to your own solution. Because if you do it, you own it.
You do own it. And you know whose fault all this is? It's Tim Ferriss. I mean,
Okay.
Here's why. Tim Ferriss has
Okay.
convinced us that we should hack everything, that we should pop past the actual work, the actual process. And let me tell you, I love the 4-Hour Work Week. I've read it 3 times, and there is so much goodness in there. The underlying problem that I think people attach to that is the wrong path is that they try to hack, and they're like, well, cool. If I just have this this tool, then I'm going to make my passive income, and I've got my $4,000 or $5,000 a month. That's awesome. Then I can do whatever I want. Well, okay, so why do you want this 4,000 or 5,000 to do what you want? Well, what is that? I don't know. I mean, if you don't know what that life is, you're just going to be working real hard to find these hacks, and you're going to trade your life for something that you really aren't clear on. And it's what I find fascinating is that if you really do the numbers, if you really honestly look at the numbers, the life that you can imagine is probably not a billionaire's lifestyle. That wouldn't even be interesting to you. And we tend to push ourselves to the point of, wow, our life is over. We're at the end. For what? It was this thing we were feeding some ego or significance or somebody else's agenda. And so we're never asking the right questions. You know, why do we want all this money? Why do we want the cash flow? You know, is 50,000 a month in cash flow going to make you happier than 10? Well, it takes more energy. It takes more energy to get to the 50. It takes different thinking. So you've got to evolve. And the question is, are you willing to pay the price? Those are other questions. The heck with the strategy and the tactics and all that until you actually figure out why and what that thing is that you're going towards.
Do you have an example of questions that you should be asking yourself, or questions you ask yourself when you're confronted with situations, or if you're thinking through opportunities or problems?
So my primary question that I asked all the time, in fact, I spent 2 years asking this, is what is true? Just really asking the question, what is true? And having somebody that will give me feedback and sometimes kind of slap me around and say, are you sure? Are you sure that's true? And really understanding the framework, the context of how I'm making decisions and what I'm chasing. The first 10 years when I was chasing all this money and everything, I didn't have anything that was keeping me in line with myself. So I was all over the place. I would chase the opportunities and I would chase the money. So now it's a different thing. And this is important for everybody. If you don't have a really narrow set of values that are guiding you and you don't have a mission, if you don't have a mission, at least have your values, because the values are going to help you say no to most things. And that's what gets us in trouble, because saying yes just chews up all of our time. And we don't go very deep in anything. So we end up lost with a bunch of check boxes being checked. So I think that's the question. What are your values? You know, Google it. There's hundreds of values, and just pick the ones that really jump out at you, and then let those decide what you're going to go after, the people you're going to be in relationship with. If you don't have those, you're going to be a totally drunk squirrel, exhausted.
Right. So now you did that, like, for your businesses. You've created your core values that you operate your business by. Is that true?
I did. That before the last business that I set up and launched, it was the first thing that happened before anybody got hired, before anything really happened, before money was raised. It was figuring out exactly what those core values were. And it was fascinating because doing that, I got really, really, really clear on my own personal values. And imagine this, the values for the company and me are the exact same ones.
That's good stuff. And that keeps you, on point with, I can see where it helped you in your business decisions. It helps you with who you hire, what market you go, that kind of stuff, because you're not, I can see, like, you're tracing, you're off on a tangent somewhere and it's totally outside of what you're trying to get done. But if you, and I'm thinking about the business owners I know that listen to the show, trying to pull some of that stuff out there. Cause I will get, what do they call it? Entrepreneurial ADD. So I suffer from shiny object syndrome. I was like, all right, what am I trying to get done? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, but you can't chase them all. You got to focus on and just get good at a few core things that you are, I think, like, to me, when we look at your overall mission and then you have your values, that's like a serious compass to kind of keep you driving on where you want to go.
That's exactly what it is, Curtis. The mission is your North Star. It's what pulls you. It's what guides you. And those values, I mean, maybe, so I was just thinking that perhaps a drunk squirrel isn't the best way to do this. It's like, describe it. It's this caffeinated squirrel that has had 14 lattes, and that's how we live. with all this stimulation, and we're in the middle of a field of shiny nuts, and we just like, oh my gosh, there's so many nuts. We just try to gather these things. The difference in the people that are truly the most fulfilled, if you want fulfillment, and forget about success, it's all about fulfillment. It's one of the chapters in Reinvented Life when Chris and I wrote that was really understanding fulfillment is the game. It's not success. That's the trick. Fulfillment is really about the ability to be super clear on who you are so you can say no to almost everything.
Let me ask you this. What skills and tools do you need to be a great investor? The follow-up to that is, and why are entrepreneurs terrible investors, and why do you think that is?
With investing, one of the things that is different from business, with business, you've got to change very, very quickly, and you've got to be willing to adapt, and things happen a lot faster. With investing, you've got to be willing to be patient and sometimes be in a holding pattern for a lot longer and not waver. And I mean, I got in trouble with real estate because I tried to make money super fast. And it was when I did that, when I was trying to flip things, that's when I flipped my net worth from positive to negative. And the places where I made millions and millions of dollars were the places where I was a farmer. Investing is farming. Business is more like hunting in a way. The shift, and that's where how people tend to start. They go out hunting. They're trying to they capture the flag. Their client is the flag or the customer. The more you can focus on farming in general, the better. You definitely have to have that mindset when you're doing investing. Otherwise, you create another job and you're probably going to create a lot of red ink all over the place.
Elaborate on farming versus hunting with investing, farming.
So there are seeds that you have to plant. You have to, as a farmer, you spend a lot of time up front building strategy, building an idea, laying out your fields, and you're anchoring in. It's not really that easy to be a farmer and then just pick up and leave and go to a different place. Like, you're really putting a lot of effort in up front. In fact, I forget who said this, but I think it was Buckminster Fuller, but I don't remember. The idea was that if you spend most of your time up front getting your plan and strategy and everything right, 85% of your success is based on the planning and the structuring. And you're 85% likely to succeed if you do the thinking up front. If you're hunting, you just jump up and you start shooting at things. There's no real thinking. There's just reacting. And this is how most of us are living our lives. You can just tell because people aren't present. They're not breathing. They're in a fight or flight state all the time. Just watch how people breathe. If you look at somebody and say, take a deep breath, what you're going to see is them taking a breath into their chest. This is how we do it as primal cavemen, where we're fighting, and it puts us into a state where we're ready to attack or be killed. And the shift is when you go into a farmer state where you've seen a baby where they have like a Buddha belly and they breathe into their belly. That's kind of how a farmer is. They're not in a state of anxiety or fighting or killing. They're breathing into their belly, and they're with their seeds that they're planting. They're investing long term, and that's really that they're investing smart long term. They're not just handing their seeds over to somebody and saying, come back in 10 years with some fruit. They're actually doing the work up front, understanding why they're putting the seeds where they're putting them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I wanted to go there because that I think that, entrepreneurship is one of the keys, but would you say that I think the way our country's built, it's, and the tax system works, it's almost not optional to not be in business. If that is one of the key components of getting you to wealth or financial independence. Would you say that was an accurate statement?
100%. You're dead. Our tax cut bill that we just had is a perfect example of how you as an employee, and I'm not talking about if you're Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift or something or Tom Brady and you've got $30 million a year. I'm talking about just, doing like human things, like normal things. You are absolutely screwed as an employee. Our tax system is set up to take a piece of you to fund the system. It's not taking a piece of the investors and the business owners. And everybody has the ability to become a business owner. One of the dumbest things I've ever heard somebody say is, I don't like to sell. You know what? How did you get your last job? You sold yourself into that job. How did you get your spouse? You sold come on. I mean, we're always selling. Read Cialdini a little bit and just understand there's levels how we influence each other. And you have to understand selling, or you're absolutely going to be in financial bondage the rest of your life. You have to understand that you've got to be in business, or those shackles are never coming off.
Right. Exactly. And it's one time I did a workshop, a marketing talk, and it was like 300 people in the room. I said, how many of y'all like sales? And these are business owners now. And it was like 15%. And I was shocked. I was like, what business you think you're in? Okay. Is like, how are you generating revenue if you don't ask for the check? Dan Sullivan had a great quote of what sales is. I'm going to butcher it. Let me see. It was like helping lead people intellectually to make a decision that is good for them.
That's it. Except what do we think about? We think about going to buy a car at a used car dealership, and we think about being trapped. We think about the pain. That's what most people come up with. Yeah, it's not serving anybody. It's trying to yank their wallet out of their pocket. And that's what we think about.
Right. And I think that if we got past that, because if you're good, you're not talking, you're asking questions and you're listening, you're just helping people. And sometimes the best thing is they don't do business with you. That's got to be okay too.
Curtis, I was on the phone with a guy yesterday talking with him about his company. We scheduled an appointment, and it was a company called grow.com. And they give you metrics on business, on your drivers and your KPIs. This is to understand what's happening so you can actually run your business based on these things. And we got through the process, and it was the wrong fit for me. And he was asking questions, and he said, I think you're right. This doesn't sound like the right fit. It's overkill for what you need. And I said, man, you are so with me. You're so candid. And when I'm at that space where this thing makes the most sense for me, you're the guy I'm going to call. And he was there to serve me, and it was an easy buying decision if it was the right fit. And if you realize that there are tons of people that are going to be the right fit, and you don't have to jam anything, you just have to make sure you're talking to the right people or talk to more people and let them choose, because they'll beg you to buy your thing. I mean, when you understand that, all of a sudden sales is really fun, because then you're just educating and people are saying, yes, please let me buy. And you're saying, okay, but you have to get in line because I'm serving a lot of people right now.
Right. That's where you want to be at. So, and that's really cool. So, I thank you so much for your time. So let me ask you this. So let's talk about qualified retirement plans, QRPs, your QRP program. And, I'm a quasi gold bug. I don't know if we have time to talk about that today, but let's talk about because you sent me this great book that I will have finished by the end of the week. I'm going to send you an email with questions. But your book is called QRPs, How to Get Checkbook Control of Your 401k Rollover Money Now.
So the QRP, if you think about retirement plans, we've heard of IRAs and 401ks and all these things. The QRP is really the Ferrari of retirement plans. It gives you unbelievable power, control, and exponential possibilities to grow money and pay no taxes and do things like buy gold, buy real estate, and use things like leverage, like debt. If you wanted to buy an apartment, you could actually take some money you had in a retirement plan. I'm kind of getting into the weeds a little bit. What I want to do is get some brains kind of kicking and make people think, wait, I've never heard of this. That's what you should be saying right now. I've never heard of this. Why haven't I heard of this? The reason you haven't heard of this is because the system, the Wall Street system, wants to keep you stuck inside of their trap where they just control your money.
Mutual funds, annuities, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Paper, what I call paper assets.
Yeah, it's paper, and it's
a limited version of paper, just like, because paper is a big conversation.
Paper is a big conversation. Here's one of the things. If you've ever heard this, or you've said it yourself, that I'm diversified because I have a collection of mutual funds or stocks and bonds, you are not.
Right. You are rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah. I mean, we are coming into a place where we're going to have a correction. It is going to be ugly. It is not, most people aren't going to be prepared, and they're going to get absolutely hammered. I think there's a high likelihood this is going to be worse than 2008. And so if you don't have a truly diversified portfolio of things that you actually control that can survive this cycle, this roller coaster that's coming, like things like gold, things like real estate, things like insurance that is boring, like whatever those things are, you need to have those. What you need is the understanding around these, not just, hey, I heard somebody that talked about this, I'm going to go invest in that one thing. Man, ask yourself why you're doing it. If you don't know why, sit in cash until you know why you're investing in that thing. You're better off that way than just saying, I hope it works. Man, you cannot smoke your way to having a bunch of hopium and think that that's going to work out well. That is not going to work.
Exactly. I mean, because you don't need to stay fully invested. You need to, if you don't understand it, don't do it. And so until you find an opportunity, so I tell people you want to be liquid, and then when you see an opportunity, then you've educated yourself, because it's not risky if you're educated. If you understand what you're doing, because investors don't really take risks. They mitigate their risk to as close to zero as possible. There's always some risk, no guarantee, some guarantees, but really no. I'm going to say no guarantees, but you can minimize your risk. You're just out there being a gunslinger. You're just hoping stuff happens. Hoping, like you said.
Well, yeah. I mean, the hopium play is when when you're giving up control, when you realize that there's a huge difference in people that are professionals that make money consistently. They understand that 85% of their win is based on the psychology. It has nothing to do with the system.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what they're investing in. It's the psychology. And another 10% is position sizing. This comes from Van Tharp, when probably the smartest trader coach on the planet. And if you realize that 5% is the actual thing, but most people spend all their time focusing on what is the thing, what should I invest in? It doesn't matter. If you don't have your psychology dialed in, if you don't understand how to expose a small part, like I do things and I lose money all the time. I'm not opposed to losing money. When I lose money, it doesn't matter though, in terms of my life changing. I don't invest 50% of my money in something. I invest 1 or 2% while I'm figuring it out. Maybe I invest 3 to 5%. It can go away. It's like crypto. I bought crypto and I am still figuring out crypto. It does. So you got to be willing to do things and give things a whirl with real money, real cash, because you'll pay attention to it when you have money, but you don't do it to where it's going to hurt you. I actually think it's a mistake to say, I'm never going to lose money. And I have friends that have said that, and I watched them lose all their money because it's a nonsense thing that you can't really understand something deeply until you have real money in it. I think that's a key part of the growth.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just can't you can speculate, but it can't be with money you can't afford to lose. But I think, you learn by screwing up. So, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me adjust that strategy, and you'll pay more attention to it if you put your money there.
You will.
And
every day.
And or if you lose, like, then what's the lesson? What didn't I see? So I don't make that mistake again.
That's the juice. That's all the goodness is when you go out there and you go, like, to have something wrong. This happened in 2008 to me and a lot of people. We lost all this money, and I watched people pointing fingers, and I was thinking, you just spent $250,000 on an unbelievable seminar called Life Experience, and you're going to point fingers and lose that thing? Are you insane? You just bought a PhD in this stuff.
Is that because, I went through that, I was still, in the mutual fund business. I was like, why? I've looked through 3 of these, right? 87, I was just got my license. I was just out of college, and then the Y2K, and then 9/11. And I didn't understand the economics, and then I started learning about the business cycle theory, and just, you start understanding why things happen, and now once you start to see that, it's like, okay, now, so you see, okay, the longest expansion we've ever been in, and you look at, okay, we cut taxes, but we didn't cut spending, and the Fed wants to raise rates. Well, that's a problem. Okay. And and so a lot of people are looking at that. They don't see that problem, and they're listening to all these cheerleaders on CNBC who make money keeping you putting money in there, but you got to look at that and say, how could this stuff affect me, and how do I, one, protect myself, and two, take advantage of opportunity that presents itself that will surely open up if you're, educated and you're looking for one.
Yeah, you do. You have to ask yourself really the question: how is the system set up for me to win when I take on all the risk and the house gets 80% of the profits? That's what a mutual fund is. I mean, it's funny if you the quote that I'm referring to came from John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, and I mean, this Wall Street doesn't like this guy a whole lot because he's basically saying, hey, you guys are ripping everybody off. People are taking all the risk, and you guys are taking $4 out of $5 of profit. How does that make any sense? That is a great game for you guys, but that screws the American public.
Right. And I say that quote all the time. And I'll tell people that, look, that's not Curtis. That's Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. Vanguard right up the street from us here in Philly, in Malvern. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying think. I'm not going to tell you. I tell people, look, I don't give investment advice. This show is for education and entertainment purposes, right? So it's my disclaimer. But you have to think because it's your money. So I've got you all listening to a guy that has made money, lost it, and made it again. So success leaves clues. So I hope you guys, I got a page of notes, and I'm doing it to talk. I'm interviewing. So this is some brilliant stuff. So Damon, let me ask you if you had to start over again, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell past self to before the crashes?
What would I tell fast self? I would say nothing is going to eat you. I mean, it's funny because I've been to Africa, and when I was there, we were told by our game wardens, do not get out of the Jeep because there's a lady that came out last week and she was here lining up some cubs to get a better picture, and Mama came over and ate her, and we're like, oh, perhaps we should not go rearrange the tiger cubs and the lion cubs. So unless you're in Africa or you are in Alaska, where I grew up, where there are bears in the front yard and you could be eaten, if you're not in one of the two A groups, you're not going to be eaten by anything. So get over it. I mean, this whole idea that something is, you're so scared. What are you really scared of? You're afraid of being judged. That's what we're afraid of. When it really comes down to it, we don't believe in our self concept that it's great enough to be real and to be all in and to live. So that's what I'd be telling myself. Go out there and do it. Do it faster, do it harder, do it with more enthusiasm, dance in the rain, do your thing. And forget about what everybody else thinks. They got their own crap. They're not even thinking about you.
That's fantastic. Damon, so what's the best way for people to that are listening to the show to follow up with you, get more information about your company and some of the things that you got going on?
Best thing to do is go to theqrpbook.com and get a copy of it. It's a copy I'll mail out to you. The reason I want you to start with that is it's going to probably be a very different idea. And there's lots of ideas that I can share with you. That one idea is probably going to trigger other things. So I want you to start there. Get that book. Let me send a copy of it to you so that you can start to ask different questions. That's what that book is really going to have. It's going to do for you is it's going to ask new questions.
All right. Fantastic. So any parting words of wisdom for our audience?
Kind of the same thing about this whole mistake thing. Understand that these mistakes, this whole fear of these mistakes, the whole point of a mistake is that it's this gift wrapped. It's a gift wrapped present from God that is masked in pain and blood. And the truth is, that's where all the growth lives. And if you want to actually have a life that's well lived and fulfilled, you got to go out there and chase those mistakes.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, folks, you got to make mistakes. You got to make mistakes faster. And just make new ones. My dad's, look, I don't mind you making mistakes. Just make new ones. Don't make the same ones over and over again. And that's when we're going to have a problem. You know, if you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, but you got to try stuff. And he told me I was like 21, 22. So look, when you eat, your whole family eats. So, try stuff. And I heard from the time I was 7, you'll never make any money work for somebody else. Right. And so I was blessed with rich dad. My grandfather was self-employed. My father was self-employed. So I never got that go to school, get a good job talk. And I feel really blessed that. I mean, it's not all bright lights and glamour because there's stuff, but you grow from that. You get tougher. And you have to get tougher in this, this economy. My daughter, to tell her story, she texted me, oh, I'm so mad at the coach right now. And he put her in a different heat. She's a track season, right? And I was like, I wanted to be in this heat, and he's doing time trials or whatever. I said, listen, you're mad at him. I said, you just have to take that anger and you need to make that fuel. So if I say, let's go work out, you got to remember, I always say, look, I want you to remember this feeling right now. Okay. And then use that as fuel to work harder. So you are never on the bubble like that. You've prepared yourself to win. And I think that, and to me, those lessons are what you take into business or into the world is that, you've got to, when I coach kids, I say, look, you got to have a will to prepare to win. Right. And everybody wants to win, but you've got to do the work. If you want to have a good meet on Saturday, it don't start Saturday morning. It's that during the week when you're running, 4 or 5, 450s, to get ready for your 400, and that kind of stuff. And I think it's the same thing in life. So you got to prepare, you got to work hard. You've got to make mistakes. And so I'm not going to rant on personal stuff, but I think it made me think of that when you said that, of just that you gotta try stuff and you got to use that as fuel. And listen, I'm all, next time I want to do this again, we'll talk about your martial art, but I want to respect for your time because we're almost at 50 minutes. So I appreciate, I had a lot of fun today.
Me too, Curtis. It's been a lot of fun.
And see, it's funny when you just start talking. I was just having a conversation, learning from a brilliant guy that I love to get to talk to. I tell people, look, the show is for me to cheat. There's an excuse for me to meet brilliant people and have great conversations and develop relationships and learn new stuff, because I am a great student and I never feel like I've arrived, that I know everything. That you always, Robert Kiyosaki says there's two sides of every coin and there's the edge, and wisdom is found on the edge. So you got to, be able to hold two opposing thoughts in your mind at the same time, and figure out your path and not just fall into dogma, So I appreciate talking to you and your time. And guys, I want to say I'm excited. I think it's a great episode of the Practical Wealth Show, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Make sure you check out, it'll be in the show notes, Damion's book. Also, if you want we also, as you see on our show notes, we give away a book, Financial Planning Has Failed. And, let's have a conversation, folks. We're both here to help our listeners create wealth, and that starts with financial education. Damion, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.